Title: Katie and the Time-Traveling Pacifier, Episode 1 Inch. The day after her high school graduation, Katie sat on her living room couch, a mix of excitement and uncertainty swirling in her thoughts. She was on the brink of a new chapter, torn between becoming a therapist and a horse veterinarian. Her eyes wandered to the stack of college brochures and textbooks on animal care and psychology. Her mother, Leah, entered the room with a mysterious smile. "Katie, I have something for you," she said, handing her a small wrapped package. Katie unwrapped it to find an old pacifier. "Mom, what's this?" she asked, puzzled. Leah chuckled. "It's not just any pacifier, Katie. It's the one you couldn't part with as a baby. Legend says it has magical powers." Katie laughed, not taking her mother seriously. "Sure, Mom. Magical powers." What Leah didn't know was that Katie secretly still found comfort in pacifiers, a childhood habit she never outgrew. Days later, Katie discovered an old photo album. She flipped through the pages, stopping at a picture of her first day of second grade, pacifier in mouth. On a whim, she placed the pacifier in her mouth and closed her eyes, remembering that simpler time. When she opened her eyes, everything had changed. She was sitting in a second grade classroom, her body small and her surroundings familiar yet distant. "Katie, pay attention, please," a voice snapped her out of her daze. It was her second grade teacher, Mrs. Williams. Katie stuttered, Yes, Mrs. Williams. Sorry." During recess, Katie encountered her old bully, Isaac Mosley. He sneered, "Look at the loser with her baby pacifier." But Katie, with the confidence of her 18-year-old self, retorted, "Grow up, Isaac. Bullying is so kindergarten." Isaac, taken aback, scampered away, and Katie couldn't help but smile. She'd never stood up to him like that before. In the cafeteria, Katie sat with her childhood best friend Denise, who had passed away years later in a tragic accident. Tears welled up in Katie's eyes as she looked at her friend, alive and well. Denise noticed. "Hey, why the tears? It's pizza day, the best day." Katie wiped her eyes. "I'm just happy to be here, Denise. Really happy." As the day ended, Katie lay in her childhood bed, pondering the day's surreal events. Was it a dream? A time-traveling adventure? She clutched the pacifier, her mind racing with possibilities. The next morning, Katie woke up back in her present day, still holding the pacifier. Her mother asked, "Did you sleep well, Katie?" Katie, still processing her journey, replied, "Yeah, Mom. I had the strangest dream." Determined to unravel the mystery of the pacifier, Katie decided to embark on another adventure. With the pacifier in hand, she closed her eyes, ready for whatever came next. "Here goes nothing," she whispered, as she took a deep breath and prepared to dive back into the past. Title: Katie and the Time-Traveling Pacifier. Episode 2 Inches. 2 days had passed since Katie's high school graduation, and she was still reeling from her incredible journey back in time. As she sat eating dinner, her thoughts lingered on her childhood friend Denise, affectionately known as Dee Dee. Tragically, Dee Dee had drowned in an accident at the age of 14. Now, with the power of the pacifier, Katie wondered if her previous experience was a dream or reality. Katie knew this would be her last summer at home before college, and she longed for Dee Dee to join her on this new adventure. With determination, she decided to try traveling back in time again after dinner. Sitting in the living room with fried chicken and macaroni remnants on her plate, Katie clutched the pacifier, closed her eyes, and focused on the day Dee Dee died. Suddenly, Katie found herself on the first day of summer in 8th grade. She remembered this day vividly as it haunted her dreams. Knowing what was to come, Katie devised a plan to save Dee Dee. She would prevent their trip to the lake where the tragedy occurred. Katie stashed the pacifier under her pillow, a habit she maintained until she was 16, and went downstairs for breakfast. Her mother served one-eyed jacks, a dish Katie hadn't enjoyed since the day of Dee Dee's accident. With a heavy heart, Katie pondered how to alter the day's events. Her plan was simple. If she deflated Dee Dee's bike tires, they couldn't ride to the lake. Arriving at Dee Dee's house, Katie discreetly began letting the air out of the tires. However, Dee Dee caught her in the act. "What the hell are you doing, Katie?" Dee Dee exclaimed, confused and angry. Stammering, Katie lied, "I'm just checking the pressure." But Dee Dee wasn't convinced and stormed off, leaving Katie in tears. Returning home, Katie locked herself in her room, crying until sleep overcame her. She hoped this too was just a dream. But when she awoke on the couch, her mother asked her to pick up green beans from the store, grounding her back in reality. At the store, Katie spotted an older version of Dee Dee. Excited, she called out, "Hey, Dee Dee!" But the grown-up Dee Dee, confused and irritated, told Katie to leave her alone. Back home, Katie recounted the encounter to her mother, realizing that Dee Dee was no longer part of her life. It dawned on Katie that these weren't dreams. She was truly traveling through time. From now on, she knew she had to be careful with the pacifier's power. Title: Katie and the Time-Traveling Pacifier. Episode 3 Inches. A month had passed since Katie last used the pacifier to travel back in time. The encounter with Dee Dee at the store had left her unsettled. She realized that changing the past could have unexpected consequences, but she couldn't help feeling that keeping Dee Dee alive was worth it. Katie sat on her couch, lost in thought, reflecting on how different life felt since her time-traveling adventures. One day, her mother brought her a letter from a college. It was an orientation pamphlet from Bookman County Community College. Confused, Katie thought, "This can't be right. I'm supposed to go to Cornell University." Then it dawned on her. Cornell was Dee Dee's dream, not hers. By saving Dee Dee, she had altered their paths. Dee Dee was the one who wanted to go to Cornell. Katie had just supported her friend. She realized she had changed more than just Dee Dee's fate. Determined to move forward, Katie decided to embrace the changes and make the best of her altered life. However, as she wandered around town, she noticed more discrepancies. Familiar faces were missing, and unfamiliar ones took their place. The town itself seemed different. One day, Katie visited Mr. Gardner at the local pharmacy. He was an elderly pharmacist who loved sharing stories from the past. But when Katie asked about Mrs. Gardner, the pharmacist's wife, she was met with shock. Mrs. Gardner had passed away 5 years ago. This revelation hit Katie hard. Her time travels were having a broader impact than she imagined. That evening, Katie realized she needed to fix the timeline. She put the pacifier in her mouth, thinking back to kindergarten, the time when she first met Dee Dee. They had discovered the park where Dee Dee would eventually drown during a sneaky adventure. Katie knew she had to prevent that day from happening. Transported back to kindergarten, Katie refrained from revealing their secret spot to Dee Dee. She hoped this change would save her friend without further altering the timeline. After spending the day in kindergarten, Katie woke up back in her own bed in the present. A man walked into her room and Katie was startled. "Is that my dad? But my parents divorced in 4th grade," she thought. Confused, she looked at the nightstand and saw a picture of Dee Dee, alive and well. Katie asked the man about her mother, only to be met with a bewildered look. He replied, "Honey, don't you remember? Your mom passed away when you were in 4th grade." Overwhelmed with the unintended consequences of her actions, Katie placed the pacifier in her mouth, this time aiming to travel back to infancy, hoping to reset everything once and for all.